Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Fighters, Coaches, and Fathers. Today, I'm super excited to have Mike, the Caveman Bully O'Neill, joining us from Thunder Bay, Ontario. Mike, how are you, my friend?
Pretty good. Can't complain. It's cold up here.
Yeah, man, I saw this polar vortex, and we're in Vancouver here right now, and it was like a little cold last night. I had to shut my window, but you guys are like minus 40 or something ridiculous.
It was minus 43 with the wind chill. It's been awful.
How do you protect your three girls like that? How do you save them from the cold? You just bundle them up and throw them outside, or what?
Save them. I use them to keep me warm.
Awesome. Hey, listen, we're going to talk about your journey into MMA. We're going to talk about your recent win at MFC2 and some other things. But we're doing this in the morning, and I'm popping my fish oils right now and my vitamin C. But real quick, talk to me a little bit about supplementation for a fighter, what you take, during your camp, what you take pre-fight, and I know you got a diet, so it's a little bit skewed, and then what you take, your favorite cheat meal or what you take after.
Okay. I don't actually take any supplements. I have a protein shake, and I'll usually just get some Isoway protein powder from Walmart once in a while when I feel like I'm not going to get the food in me. But I don't use any multivitamins. I don't use any fish oils or anything like that stuff. I need to start listening to you more often, maybe.
No, I think that maybe that just shows you're 100 years younger than I am, and I have to take supplements to get to the gym and repair all the time. So that's fantastic. Anyway, no magic from Mike today on supplementation, but I'm sure he'll be giving us a call when in 10 years when he's considerably older. What
I was
should I
like,
take?
crap, like he's even talking about diet. I didn't diet for my last fight either.
Yeah, that's
I ate
awesome.
what I wanted.
Fantastic. All right, let's get to it. You're out in Thunder Bay. We got some things to talk about, but let's go back and talk to me a little bit about Mike O'Neill and growing up in Thunder Bay as little Mike O'Neill, and how did your journey start into athletics?
Uh, Took a while. I didn't start getting athletic till I think I was 9 years old, and my dad for like 4 or 5 years kept hounding me to play hockey. When are you gonna play hockey? When are you gonna play hockey? And I kept saying no, no, no. Finally, I gave in and said, "Yeah, I'll give it a try." And I ended up really liking it. Played hockey from age 9 all the way up to current. 'Cause I still play on Fridays, and that's where most of my athletics. That's where all the athletics started, I guess. Because besides that, I didn't have really anything for a few years till I got to high school, and then I started wrestling. And wrestling really turned out to be something I was a lot better at than anything else. So just worked out really great for me there.
Hey, can I ask you a question about hockey and balance and grip? I talked to I remember reading a book one time, and it talked about an enforcer in hockey and how if you've ever been in a hockey fight, when you pull the jersey over and you got to balance on your skates, that it really helps with normal wrestling and fighting. Were you ever in a scrape when you were playing hockey, and did you ever have to use grip and balance to win a fight, or are you just a gentle giant?
Uh, I'm flattered you would say I'm a giant. All 5'8" of me. But no, I've never actually gotten in a hockey fight. Uh, I was too pretty for that.
Man, yeah, right. I get it. So nothing on supplements, nothing for hockey fights. Man, we're getting off to a great start here. Let's continue with hockey into wrestling, and
Breaking
then
stereotypes daily.
yeah, let's go to hockey into wrestling. And so, talk to me about your first wrestling practice and why did it feel so good, or where did it seem easy for you? Like, why did you know that was a path you wanted to continue?
When I was really young, like younger, I always enjoyed wrestling with my sister, my buddies. I wasn't a fighter back then. I didn't want to punch or hit anybody, but like I had a blonde curly hair and a mullet because my mom really liked Billy Ray Cyrus, so I was the victim of that. So I had a lot of kids that
Achy breaky
picked on me.
You knew how to line dance and do the achy breaky heart dance before you even got into MMA. I guess you needed to learn how to
Yeah.
fight.
Well, I didn't know how to dance, but I had to learn how to at least stop the punches from coming. So, but yeah, wrestling, I just had like a knack for it. I was really good at tripping people. So when they tried to get at me, it would just trip and run. And yeah, so that was where the wrestling came from. So when I finally had my first actual wrestling practice, it just felt natural. Just seemed like something I should be doing, and I did really good at it. Like I wasn't getting my ass kicked by any means. I was definitely holding my own. Won a couple tournaments, did pretty good with it. So I kept with it, and I don't regret any minute of it. It was the best sport I've ever got involved with.
Yeah, why is it such an important sport for mixed martial arts, do you think, wrestling?
The mental grind, like those warm-ups they make you do, the wrestling, it's so difficult. It takes every muscle in your body to keep that going. So you're really learning mental toughness, I'd say, is the best key to what makes wrestlers so great and so perfect for fighting. Plus, we get to dictate where the fight goes. We get to we get to decide if it's going down. We get to decide if it's going to stand up. It's on the other guy to decide if he's going to stop our takedown or try to take us down.
Yeah. And so you move into wrestling and then how do you get an MMA?
Well, after wrestling finished and I graduated high school and was doing the college thing, I started doing powerlifting for a bit. And I got kind of, I guess, stale in the powerlifting. And I decided I was going to get back into wrestling. But I was going to the LU University and I was wrestling there on and off. And if you're not going to school there, there's no tournaments to do. So I decided I'd go to Progressive Martial Arts, which was a gym that used to be here. And I figured I'd give kickboxing a try. So I did about maybe 2 or 3 months of kickboxing and decided that, I'm starting to, this is fun. It's pretty good. But then they had this submission grappling class that came up after that called shoot wrestling. So I started doing that. And it was what I was missing my whole life. It was wrestling with submissions. So it was just perfect. And shoot wrestling favors the top game and being in a dominant position. So it was just perfect for wrestlers to pick up. So I started doing that. I'm a brown belt now in Shudo, and started picking that up. And then literally, actually, after I joined that shoot wrestling class, I did about a month of that. And then they asked me if I wanted to fight a teammate in an amateur fight. So I said, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. And I went 3 rounds with him, and then I ended up choking him out in the third round. So it was quite an experience.
Nice. And it's always an interesting situation, competitiveness with teammates and friends. How do you feel about that? Does it create animosity?
Well, it's funny because like I went to high school with this kid or this guy. He was older than me, and he was a better wrestler than me in high school. He had better accomplishments, so I always felt he had a chip on his shoulder. So I thought maybe I could take him down a peg, maybe. If Steve Flank's watching this, hi bud. So we had our fight, and the first round I think could have gone either way. Second round he won. Third round I clearly just really took it to him, and then choked him out. And then they had to stretch him out because he was just so physically gone. And I can remember after that fight, I felt so tired too. Went and talked to him afterwards, in between him being on the oxygen and being puking and all that. But we were like, wow, what a friggin' awesome fight! And then he's sitting there like, can't remember it. So I was like, I'm all still jacked, and poor guy's trying to get oxygen. Shit.
It's funny how those fights go. I remember watching a fight, and I can't remember who Chris Lehman was fighting, but they asked him during the round, and it was like the fourth or fifth round, and he came back after that, and he was like, "No, I don't remember the third, fourth, or fifth round at all. I thought it was the second when they said the fight's over," and you're just like, ugh. So it does take a toll, no question about it. And okay, so after shoot wrestling, but you start training with ex-UFC fighter Jesse Blomfeld as well. How does that start?
I can't remember the exact year. I think it was 2009. I think it was a year after my oldest was born. He just beat Chris. heck's his name? He was a UFC fighter as well.
Weidman.
No, it was a local
Oh,
Canadian fighter. He
yeah,
trained with
yeah.
Mark Hominick and
Yeah,
whatever.
I'll get it after.
Yeah, he beat that guy anyways in TKO, or to go to TKO, and he ended up beating him for the title anyways. And so I was like, oh man, this guy lives in Kenora. It's literally like 4 hours drive, 4 or 5 hour drive from me. And at the time, I didn't have an MMA coach. I didn't have anyone to really teach me MMA. I just had a guy that was really good with he taught sambo and shoot wrestling. And then I had Mitz, who was an uninvolved kind of kickboxing coach, but really knew he had a lot of levels. He was really established, but he just wasn't really there a lot. So I figured I'll try my luck and head up there. So I made a couple trips up there. Went up there after my first pro fight. Went up there before to do a week training, and I've gone up there on and off. I got a blue belt under Jesse for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Great guy, and he was really accommodating. Let me stay at his house every time I've gone up there. Trained a lot with him. Got to meet his kid, meet his mom, his dad, the whole family. It's good times. Every time I've gone up there, I've learned some good valuable lessons, and they've been very crucial and helpful.
Yeah, he's a friend of the show. We've had him on, and we'll link his video after ours because it is a pretty special story, and he was going through some things when we talked last year that are tough and made him stronger. And man, to see him, see his last fight that he had set up, go through the process. The guy that he was supposed to fight didn't show, but I've never seen him look more ripped. He looks in amazing shape.
Yeah, he's usually got a little bit of soft. He looks a little soft usually, but
Yeah, not
he
now,
really
man.
dialed it in the last couple months. He's been really taking it seriously. You can just see that he's training hard every day.
Yeah. So you start training over there, and then you start doing some MMA fights.
Yeah, I did my first pro fight without him actually. I was just kind of consulting him through the internet and asking him questions and all that kind of stuff, and probably annoying him. I don't know. And then had my first pro fight. I can't remember the name of the guy I was supposed to fight, but then I think a week out or 2 weeks out, the original guy pulled out. So then they found me another guy, Corey Houston from WAMA, and he was, I think, 4 fights ahead of me into his career. Had a bunch of boxing fights. And my fight was supposed to be at 145, and I took this fight at 155 on 2 weeks' notice. And then showed up there weighing 155, didn't cut any weight for it, and then found out from him later on he was like 175 for the fight. Yeah, I went out, first pro fight, went out to touch gloves, and he sucker just smokes me in the face off the glove touch, and I was like, I didn't even remember that. I didn't see that till I was on the Fight Network to find out that he sucker punched me. But I ran him into the cage. We scrambled for a little bit. Eventually, I couldn't. I think I took him down. He reversed it. I couldn't get him off me after. Referee had some mercy on me and ended the fight. And then after that fight was the first time I went to Jesse's gym in Kenora, and I put in like a day just training with him, mount escapes and all these other stuff, and just we really vibed. And then everything worked out great. And then after that, I went up there for a little bit of another training camp for when I fought Tang Thong Pang. And then I beat Tang in about 40 seconds. And so I was like, okay, well, there's obviously a lot better having an MMA coach who can coach you in MMA rather than just having a wrestling coach and a kickboxing coach and a grappling coach, essentially. So that worked out. And then he helped me out with all the other fights since then. So it's been a good thing.
Awesome to hear. And so as we go through the career, how do you get the call to go all the way from Thunder Bay to MFC2 to square off against Blair Oster?
I was on Top MMA News just scrolling through the stories, and I remember, or the upcoming events, and I remember seeing that there was this MFC, and I'm like, oh, they're redoing Maximum Fighting Championship. Oh, how cool. And I click on it, and I'm like, oh, this isn't that. And I'm like, this is in Saskatoon. It's called Modern Fighting Championships. So I'm like, oh, I see they don't have an opponent for this Blair Oster guy, so I found out that Adam was the contact for that, and he was already on my Facebook. So I Facebooked him and said, hey, I'm interested in that fight. If you want to put me in, I'll go up to 155 or I'll fight him at 145. It's all good. So he gets back to me maybe a week later and says the fight's on. I got it. And I'm like, oh, excellent. So So then I was like, I guess I got to start training again.
And we love guys like you, Mike, to do something like that because as you know, in our event, we had over 30 canceled fights,
Mhm.
and there are guys like you and like Lee Mean and that and like Jesse who will essentially say, all I want to do is fight. I don't really care about money. I don't care about this. And that's one of the reasons you'll always be a favorite of our events is because us outside of injury, like serious injury, you guys just show up, perform in joyous and exciting fashion. So we appreciate that, man, and I love it, and we hope to get you back for the next one.
Yeah. And I should actually point out too, um, to Adam and AJ's credit, when I was negotiating with them, they said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Well, I'm like, don't even worry about flying me up a corner, man. You guys can corner me if that saves you guys some money. I'm cool with that." And they were cool with that too, and they were able to save some. But I also said like, all I want is just enough money to cover my lost wages, and then they paid me more than what I asked for. So props to them. We need more promoters like that in here.
I appreciate it, but it was a bit of a stressful fight. Let's go to MFC. At least it was for me because I've talked to Blair before. We've set it all up, and I guess before we get into it, man, you are probably one of the funniest dudes I've ever talked to, and you have a knack at getting into some people's heads. Um, and so let's talk a little bit about how you and here's what the funny thing is that you didn't get into Blair's head until the weigh-ins, but let's talk about what you were doing. I asked you a couple things. The first was, hey, what's your walkout song you want to come out to? And that's sort of when all this ridiculous I'm going to get into Blair Oster's head kind of thing happened. What was the song that you decided to pick and why?
Well, I'll tell you the lead up was I noticed from a picture I saw of him online that he has the Superman symbol tattooed on his chest. So I was like, oh, this guy's making up for some insecurities here. I think I should really be able to dig into this one. So I started making a whole bunch of computer pictures where I dubbed his face onto like a dead Superman body. Had me dubbed on the Batman when I was choking Superman out in the little subtitle, I could end this and break his neck now. And then ironically, I won that way too. So, but
but then I remember because it all started from, hey, what walkout song do you want to come out to? And you're like, give me a bit, let me think about it. And
and
you
I
come back.
messaged you back, and I was like, "Our Lady Peace, Superman's dead."
Yeah, I lost my mind, and I was laughing my head off, and I thought, Jesus, this Mike guy is hilarious. Either he's the real deal, or he's in for a whole world of hurt. And Blair doesn't find out about any of this stuff until the weigh-ins. And as we're sitting there doing it, I'm looking at the crowd and I see where you're sitting, and everyone's mad because you're dieting. Half you guys are anyway, trying to cut weight. Some of you aren't. I know that he is. And but I look over and you can see guys struggling through the diet, like, oh, I just want to eat, get the weigh-ins done and eat. And he is literally, his face has changed. And he normally gets, like that before a fight, but you're in his head now. And what happens at the weigh-in?
The guy tried to romance me and kiss me. Got a little too close for my comfort, so I gave the guy a shove, and the Oop Oop almost went through your green screen.
Yeah, it was great, and I love the fact that you guys kind of calmed down after that. But have you done that before? Got into people's heads?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to think, and Louis Facette, me and him, we were playing with each other, like we were just fucking with each other online, and we were making jokes, and I told him to like make sure he brings his sunglasses for me to wear, and I remember he made a line like, "Oh, don't take it so personally." And I said, "Why would you say that and ruin the hype? You just ruined our whole train. Now people are gonna know we're just joking with each other." And that was about the end of that.
Was that pre or was that before or after he got to the Ultimate Fighter?
I think it was just before he went to the Ultimate Fighter, actually.
Yeah, Louis Facette fought on a bunch of Saturday Night Fights, which we commentated as well. Love that guy. And when did you fight him? How did that fight go?
Fought him in 2011, and it was the first time I ever made 135. And
Ooh.
I cut, oh, I think it was 15 pounds of water that day, and I didn't know what I was doing back then, really. And I ended up not doing too good, and I had to go to the hospital right after making weight. So they had to put IV in me and keep me overnight. And then the funny part of that story, I guess it's funny now, I was fuming back then, but they put in 3 of those bags of IV into me, and then I forgot that my friends took my wallet back to the hotel with them. So I didn't remember what hotel I was in. They had my phone, so I couldn't text them or call them. And I didn't know Gabe's phone number or the promoter's phone number, so all I can remember is that I could see the RBC building from my hotel room. And I knew it was downtown, so I got out of after they discharged me, I walked and kept walking, and every time I found one of those guys in the corner with the red vests on that worked for the city, I'd ask them where the RBC building is downtown. They'd give me directions. So I walked for about 2 hours in the Winnipeg winter, and I got back to the hotel, and that was an awful night.
Oh my God! And you had to fight the next day. And
well, not even the next day. I got back to the hotel at 8 a.m. and because they discharged me at 6 a.m.
Oh.
And then I went to bed there, didn't rehydrate or finish rehydrating, just whatever they put me in, put over IV bags in me. So I go to bed and I sleep, and then they wake me up at 6 p.m. and they're like, "We got to get going. It's time to get going to the fight." Or not 6 p.m. It was earlier than that, probably 4. And they're like, "It's time to go. We got to go." So I'm like, well, I didn't even get to drink anything. We go to the show, and the doctors checked me over because they said if I wasn't rehydrated enough, they weren't going to let me fight. So they checked me, and then the doctor said I wasn't rehydrated enough. So they said I have an hour to get more fluids in me, or they're not going to let me fight. So then they brought me a fuckload of Gatorade, and I downed probably about 4 or 5 bottles and went back in maybe a half hour later, an hour later, and he okayed it and said, "Okay, yeah, you're good enough." And then fought him, and I ended up coming in and I slammed him right off the get-go. I grabbed a hold of his leg, hoisted him up, Rampage Jackson style, slammed on him, got on top of him, held him down. I held him there for, this is so long ago, but I held him in place for quite a bit because like that slam, like I could feel my body was definitely affecting not having that water. And I was having a lot of cramps during that moment.
Oh, crap.
So it was a crappy fight, and then I held him, just kind of like tried to stall for time. Eventually, he got on top of me, and I went for a triangle choke, an arm bar, and then the round ended. Second round came out, and I just remember nothing was working. My cornerman was talking to me, and I couldn't lift my arms up. Everything was stiffening up. Everything was like tightening up, and
oh no, never.
It was exactly what I was thinking. I was like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, "How am I gonna? I'm gonna get punched in the head. How am I gonna put my arms up?" So I went in like this, and then the fight just slowly went down. And I remember him shooting in on me, and I saw the shot a mile away. And I'm a good wrestler, so I can usually stuff a good takedown. And I remember like, shoot, and my body didn't respond. And I was like, too late, he's under you. Too late, he's on top of you. Luckily, he took my back and took a choke, and I was like, I could barely get my arms up to even fight him. And I was like, everything was stiff and hurting. And I was like, probably the worst experience of my fighting career next to fighting Owen Carr. So
yeah. It's funny how dehydration affects it. I've never been in a situation like that, but I've been dehydrated and have done like a 45-minute walk, not a 2-hour walk before a fight, and your body cramps, and it doesn't matter what your brain does. Like people are like, you can fight through it. No, you can't. Your body's, and you're like, oh no, I can't move. And it is probably the scariest thing you'll go through next to a car accident as it's about to happen, because no matter what you say to yourself, your body doesn't respond. And people don't realize that. But man, thanks for sharing that story. And that's why you will never, ever go to 135 again, I'm sure.
I did cut to 135 again. I was an idiot. After the Louis Facette fight, I moved up to 145, and I fought Jesse Arnett. And the Jesse Arnett fight, I think I that was one of the best training camps I ever had. Everything was going good. I was going to LU and I was wrestling 4 days a week. I went up to Kenora twice, trained with Jesse. Had a boxing coach back then for a little bit, and I just watched a lot of Jesse's tape. I watched the 2 fights he had that I could find, and I just kept rewatching them. And I realized that he really led deep on his left leg, so I kicked his leg out from under him, got up, kicked him in the head, and that was pretty much the end of the fight. Then after that, I went and I fought Denatali, and then after him, I fought Owen Carr. And Owen Carr, that was when I went back to 135. And that weight cut went great. Everything went great. But that guy was a dirty son of a bitch.
Yeah, he was. If I remember correctly, he was biting and spitting and scratching. Wasn't he doing everything that you shouldn't be doing?
Yeah, well, I had I had Bonfield in my corner that fight, and right off the hop, like I kicked him in the head and cut his eye open, and so then he started bleeding from that. And then during the fight, as it progressed, we eventually found a spot where I was in guard and he was on top, and he fish hooked me. And I was like, son of a bitch, that actually happened. So I'm smacking his hand away, and I'm looking at the ref like that's cool. And then he did it again, and he actually split my lip right down the center.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we got pictures after the fight where it was cut. And Brian Bouchard, who was at the fight, he was one of the acting commissioning refs and stuff. So he actually wrote an article for Sportsnet about all the infractions, and he counted like 30 of them. Jesse counted quite a few. He had hit me in the back. After the end of that first round, he wiped the blood off of his eye, and as I'm walking away, he wipes it on my back. And then after that, he even blew his nose at me when I was leaving, because at the end of the second round, he blew his nose on me as I'm walking past him, and I'm like, "What the fuck's with this guy?" And like, I hate to admit it, but that was he got in my head bad that fight. Like I just remember, like, I was just kind of like holding him off just to be like pissed at the ref. There was so many times I stopped to swear at the ref, be like, "What the F are you doing here, bud?" And Len Cavista, or whatever his name was, I don't think he's refed an MMA fight since. I'm pretty sure they fired him. So.
Well, he shouldn't in that situation. And it's bad for the sport, and it's bad for him, and it's bad for you. So,
like, there was a point where I took him down, and I had him on the ground, and then he illegally up-kicked me in the head. And then, you know what Len does? Stand him up.
Wow.
Stands us up and lets us start standing.
Yeah, it's good to see John McCarthy doing his course, and a lot of people taking that right now because I can't even imagine going through that. I mean, if you've got not only just people in the crowd, but that's cool. People don't understand poor reffing and things. If you look at the Conor McGregor Khabib fight, people, if they see something that's unfair or they don't like it, they will fight in the crowd, or they will get. And so bad reffing actually creates it's a risk to people in the crowd. People get upset, and there's things like that. So people don't understand that, but if you're a bad ref, you actually create more damage, not just in the ring with the fighters, but across with the crowd that's out there. And you can actually, data-wise, you can take a look at it. If that stuff happens in the ring, poor reffing equals fights outside the ring, which is crazy, but it's actually correlated. All right, let's get past that. Let's go back. I love the stories. I'm more interested in the dehydration and hydrating that stuff and getting there. But we're talking about your fight for MFC2, which was
sorry.
Yeah. No. I'm excited. I'm getting off that. So you're sitting there. We have this big situation where Blair goes to either stare in your eyes, but he moves his lips close to yours. You throw him into the green screen. No green screens were hurt in the taping of that event. And so it's on now, and you've got a good mentality. We talked to you after you're eating and stuff. How does, and your girlfriend's going to the ring with you as well in this one. How does that walk up to that fight, and how'd that fight go for you?
The walk up to the fight, like, it was going pretty good. I warmed up a bit with Adam in the back, and everything was feeling really good. I was feeling pretty confident. I was feeling nice and loose. I was feeling big and strong. Everything was feeling great. And so we're walking to the ring. I'm feeling all good. I got my Superman's Dead song playing. I'm feeling all amped, thinking how much Jeff's probably enjoying this song. get into the ring, waiting for Blair to come in. He comes in, and I could just remember his stare at me, and I'm like, oh, the little guy's mad. He's mad. And I'm thinking to myself, wonder what kind of mistakes he's going to make. Because, like, we all know anger really clouds judgment. So fight starts, and I go in, I throw a Superman punch. I don't even think the punch landed, but it got him where I wanted him, up against the ropes. I shoot in, grab his legs, I get a hold of his hips, just heave him right up, spin him around. I contemplated for a quick second to Matt Hughes him and run him into my end of the ring. But I was like, this is a good spot to drop him. So I slammed him down there.
He holds between a ring and a cage too, right? You run him into a ring, you might throw him right outside, right? So probably a good decision not to run him into the ropes.
Exactly, yeah. So I slam him, get on top of him, hold the position. I tried to knee him a couple times. I was trying to elbow him. He was just kind of doing what he did. It's hard to see because he had his arm over my head, so I couldn't see where I was aiming. I was just trying to hit. And then eventually I pull his arm over. I get him to scoot over to his stomach. I jump on his back. I land a couple uppercuts under his armpit. Hit him pretty good and flush. And then before I know it, he's bleeding. Going for rear naked choke. He's trying to fight the choke. And then when I decided that, okay, he doesn't want to lose to choke, so I'm going to neck crank him then. So I put my forearm on his nose and just reefed it right in, and that made his head turn to the side, so then it was easy to finish the neck crank, and then he tapped out. And then you scared him out of the ring. He ran away.
No, I think he wasn't happy with the outcome. That was less than, I think, a minute that you had the win. And what was interesting is what I was noticing during that is your girlfriend came to the ring with you too. And I remember talking to AJ after, and she was an absolute wreck. She was there for you, but man, she wouldn't let AJ leave her side. She said, what are you doing? Don't just leave me here. She wouldn't come into the ring. She wouldn't leave the ring. It was hilarious, but great support from Carly there. It was just one of these other things where I guess she was a bit anxious and got through it. But she seems like she's a big fan of yours and supporting your career.
Yeah, she just bought me a TV. I bug her all the time. She bought a TV off her dad, and she's keeping it at my house.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, it works out great.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on that win. I mean, it was a great win, and we hope to have you back to MFC3 coming up. A couple other questions that I want to ask specifically and guide us from where we're at. And the first one is around, you have a ton of sponsors. And I was like, fighters are always trying to figure out other ways to make money. And so I was curious about that. When I saw your list of sponsors, I was like, whoa, how did Mike get all these sponsors? Any advice to fighters on that?
It helps when you're good looking like this. So.
It's just the beard.
The beard, the missing teeth, it's the whole works, man. No, it's really being personable, being a personal guy, or being, friendly. I don't have any problems making friends generally nowadays, and it's being friendly to everyone, talking to a lot of people, and then everyone knows somebody, so it's a lot of helpful contacts kind of got me set up. My dad, his friend got me set up with Fair Barnes Machine Shop. On Deck Bar was a friend of mine's dad's bar, and there's a Superior Smokehouse and Barbecue. Was a friend that he's a regular at On Deck, so I go to On Deck was quite a bit, and so I'd see him there, and that's how I got contacted with him. A lot of my sponsors, though, like they're not financial ones. They're mostly just like trade of services kind of sponsor. Harbor View Optometry gives me free eye exams for fights, so I don't have to worry about paying for that. And then I put their sponsor in there. Signs Now sponsors me, but gives me a free banner instead of paying the, like the $150, $200. On Deck gave me a lot of, a lot of free food vouchers and all that kind of stuff. And, at Bob's Woodburners, I had them, and they gave me a 50% discount on a wood stove, and, provided me with a lot of free equipment for home heating and stuff like that. So a lot of you help me, I help you kind of stuff, sponsors, and those work just as great for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's good, and I think it is important for fighters to do that. Not every fighter can be as personable as you, or vice versa. But another thing that I wanted to talk to you, when we talked about you coming out to the song that you came out to I'm more interested. You did that to get into Blair's head, but is there a song or is there something that gets you in the right frame of mind to get to the ring, that you normally use, or do you normally change your song?
I'd say, "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me" by Boy George, probably. uh, no, let's see. Maybe that'll be my next entrance song.
Yeah, but let's talk about it. I mean, we believe that the one thing that I love about music is that it immediately does change your state. And is there a song that when you're maybe not in the mood or to fight or get to I know I get up in the morning listening to somebody yelling at me to succeed in my life on some Spotify thing just to say get into the shower, get to the gym, that type of thing. You have something like that for music?
Yeah, like Pantera, anything from Pantera works. Korn, DMX, a lot of Ice Cube, even the old Tupac stuff is pretty good. Slipknot's I'm a big fan of Slipknot. Some of Metallica, it's just a lot of that heavier stuff. Rage Against the Machine, all of them kind of really motivate me. A lot of the '90s metal, I should say.
Yeah,
90s
yeah.
metal and rap. Like anything from the 90s, if it was metal or rap, I liked it. I was kicking it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What for me, music kind of it tones down the negative self-talk that I have. And what I mean by negative self-talk is kind of like, I want to stay in bed, or I don't want to lift this much weight, or that kind of thing. How does it affect your state?
uh, Depending on what my day is like, I find like that the heavier the stuff, the more it kind of motivates you to get out and do stuff. Like sometimes you just want to lift heavy. Sometimes you want to go and hit your best friend a couple times in a ring. It just depends what you want to do for the day, I guess. When I just want to kind of sit and relax, I listen to a lot of Tupac actually. When I want to get moving and going, then you really want that DMX going, or NWA or whatever it might be for you. I like a lot of the heavier metal, and then there's even a lot of like alternative music that I was into, like Nirvana. You can't get enough of them.
Yeah, I
Oh,
hear you. But yeah, based on your mood and that type of thing. Hey, listen, we got to wrap up real quick here, but you're a father, you're a fighter, you're a coach.
yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the best advice that you've received from your family, and what it sort of what it how it's inspired you or in your fighting career, and maybe to be a father yourself.
Best advice I ever got would be from my dad, and it wasn't necessarily advice. It was a lot of just teaching you hard labor, hard work always pays off, and he put that mentality into you that he was just constantly wanting you to work, 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 and then learn to be a workhorse, and things will come to you. So he had me working pretty young. Like he wanted me to have a childhood, so he didn't make me work at a job too much. But like he may help us. He's always having me help him out with whatever he was building or whatever he had to pile up or kind of manual labor he had. He had me working at the mill with him while I was in school. A lot of working, and it just kind of helped me out for life because it gave me that workhorse mentality. And so whether it's working hard for getting ready for a fight or it's working hard to make money, it's been helpful and very beneficial in my life, and I can't go wrong with that. From my mom, it would probably be another mentality thing. It was just be good to others, and others will generally be good to you. So it kind of really made me think like always think the best of people until they give you reason otherwise, I would suppose. Positive thinking was one of her things. Like I don't know if you ever heard of that book or that documentary, The Secret, Power of Positive Thinking or Laws of Attraction. So you think of something long enough, it'll come to you. So yeah, I do a lot of that. I do a lot of visualization stuff and like that kind of thing. Like right now, I got a list on my wall for goals of 2019 of things that I need to accomplish and stuff like that. So every morning I wake up and see that, and I could think, laying in bed going to help me accomplish that, or am I going to get out of bed and work towards them? Right?
Yeah, I love that, man. It's a great respect for your family, great respect for achieving things. I 100% believe in that what you think about, you attract, as long as it revolves around action as well. You just can't
Yeah.
dream something
Oh,
into
for sure.
reality,
Yep.
but you can dream it into reality with appropriate and unwavering action, as long as you're able to change and adapt. So it's fantastic to hear you do that. I think visualization is more important for fighters than it is for average people, because you really want to see your hand getting raised in the ring regardless of the win. So
Yep.
yeah,
We all visualize our fights by 1,000 times each day, thinking about all the possible scenarios, everything that you're going to do to counteract whatever they do in that fight. So yeah, a lot of thinking.
Yeah, it's awesome. Hey, Mike O'Neill, thanks for taking the time today, man. I really appreciate it. And we look forward to see you back at MFC 3 and look forward to seeing what you're up to next.
All right, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye for now, my friend.
See you later, bud.